Hi ladies, I'm here today with another flower tutorial. I'm still on my flower making kick, and this is another flower that I've tried to kind of replicate, and it's a Prima type flower. Theirs is in white, and I'll go ahead and put the name below because of course as soon as I start the video I cannot remember the name of the flower I was trying to copy. But anyway, this is what I'm going to be making today. So to make this flower you just need a couple of things. You're going to need a needle and thread. You're going to need a piece of eyelet lace. It can be ruffled, but it doesn't have to. When you have a ruffled lace, it just makes it easier to get that ruffled look on the flower, but if it's a flat lace, that's fine. You'll just need a longer amount. And I'll explain that when I start working on that part. And you're also going to need some kind of sheer material. And as you can see from mine, it does not have to be cut straight, but I recommend that it's about 1 inch thick, maybe a little bit less, but anywhere from 3/4 to a full inch thick of a piece of sheer material, organza or chiffon. I've tried it with tulle. I didn't particularly like the way it looked, but you can certainly try it. And you're also going to need some kind of pearl to put in the middle. Now I'm going to sew mine on, but you could definitely hot glue some sort of button or pearl in the middle. So the first step to making this flower is you're going to need to take your eyelet lace and you're going to need to do a running stitch to make the bottom layer. Now I have about 8 inches of a ruffled eyelet lace, and because it already has a slight ruffle I don't need quite as much to make it look ruffled, but if you had a flat lace I would definitely go for at least 10 inches. The more ruffles you want, the longer you're going to want your piece of lace or trim to be. And like I said, because this has a slight ruffle, I only need about 8 inches. And to do the running stitch, you're just going to take your needle, put it in, out, and you're going to continue doing that until you have gone through the full length of your piece of trim. And then you're going to pull to the very end, but leaving some string to hang over so you can tie it, and you're just going to tie off the end. Really only need to double knot it. I always triple knot everything. There's our bottom layer, and the next thing you're going to do is, to make this flower you're going to need to make this little twist in the middle. Really simple to do. It's easier to show you than to explain it. But what you're going to do is now you're going to take your piece of thin sheer fabric, and I have seen some people fold it and iron it, but like I mentioned in another video, I do not iron. So I'm just going to kind of hold it, fold it over as I'm sewing, because that's how I want to sew it. When I fold it over, I want to sew it on the open edge with a running stitch. And the same thing, you're just going to go in, out with your running stitch until you get to the end. Now once you've gotten to the end, you'll have your fabric all bunched up, and this is where it's kind of confusing to explain, but I'm going to try to show you and explain the best that I can. What you're going to want to do is basically, you could just do it like that and have another little ruffle, but I'm going to almost extend mine out just a little bit, because what I'm going to want to do is create that twirled look we have in our flower. And you're going to kind of do that on your own. You can't just pull the string and make that happen. You've got to just kind of twirl it on your own. So I do extend the fabric a little bit, and I start to make a twirl pattern with my fabric. And I forgot, you do want to pull your string kind of to the end, because you're going to go back in and sew to hold this in place. Making sure you leave enough at the bottom to tie it off. Okay, so what I've done is I've just I've pulled out the fabric and I've twirled it around myself. And in the middle you're of course going to have an edge that's not quite finished, but I just tuck that under, and then when I start sewing it's going to sew that into place. and I want to make sure that my bottom string is out where I can get to it. Sometimes it gets tucked under things, but you want to make sure it's out where you can get to it. And what you're going to do to keep this in place is now you're just going to sew it in place once you're happy with where everything is. And to sew it in place, you're just going to do a couple of stitches. So put one stitch through down to the bottom, then bring it back up, down to the bottom, then bring it back up. And what you want to achieve with this is just basically you're sewing all of the layers together. And when you go to the back, you also want to make sure that the open end of this, where it's a little bit frayed, I also tuck that one kind of back, and just make sure that that's sewn up towards the front to hold it in place as well. And I do put anywhere from 5 to 10 stitches just so I can be sure that it's held in place. Also, you could use hot glue for this step and it would work just as well. I've just been extremely messy with my hot glue lately, so flowers didn't look that great when I was done, so I'm just choosing to use a needle and thread. Okay. And once you have this part all set, you're just going to want to connect the 2 layers with the pearl. So now if you have some left at the end, you can tie it off here. I'm just going to go ahead and just sew it on though for the sake of time. And you put that in. Now what you're going to do here, you're going to put the second layer on top. You're going to join the 2 together. You're just going to add a few stitches. I'd say 3 or 4 would be plenty because you're just wanting to join the 2 layers. Again, this is a step that you could hot glue. Okay. And then when you get back here, you can just do a little knot. Okay, and there you have your flower base. And the last step is just to add your pearl. Now for this, the needle I'm using is quite large, so it doesn't fit in the pearl, but really simple. All you do is you put your needle up through, straighten through the pearl, go back down, and you can do that a second time to make sure it's adhered in place. But for this, I'm just going to put a little dot of hot glue, and I'm going to stick my pearl down because hot glue works just fine with this step. And there you have it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll try this out and let me know how it turns out. Thanks.